Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Kevin O'Donovan. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about the metaverse. Do you remember that? And the industrial metaverse. And Kevin and I are going to talk about why the metaverse hasn't actually gone away. Kevin, remind people, where can people find you?
The easiest place is you'll find me on LinkedIn, Kevin O'Donovan, and I'm on various other channels and websites and whatever. But the easiest way is through LinkedIn.
Okay, Kevin, welcome, and I'm glad that we're talking about the metaverse because it did. I've had people on here talking about the metaverse, and it was the best thing since sliced bread. And then all of a sudden, this AI thing came along and seemed to like push it out of the yeah. So tell first and foremost, let's understand what is the metaverse, because I think it's worth looking at that, and then explain to us why the industrial metaverse and talk about the framing of that.
So Tim, the way that I kind of framed this, and specifically talking about the industrial metaverse and how it's what. So I suppose just a bit of history. It was back in 2021 at Inlet Europe was coming up, and they were asking me about where do I see technology going and whatever. And I said I have a topic. I'll call it the energy metaverse. It was primarily around the energy industry and where we were headed and whatever. So I was doing that in November. Now, about a month before that, a big company changed their name to Meta, and of course, then suddenly Metaverse came a thing. Now, Metaverse didn't suddenly appear when Meta changed their name. It's been around for a long time, right? The history.
Yeah.
But cut long story short, the way I kind of frame it, and I suppose I will say up front, I'm not sure if industrial metaverse is the right word that we'll be using in 5 years' time, whether it's Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0, smart manufacturing, the virtual factories, pick your buzzword. But I think there are certain characteristics. And what I mean by the world we're in today and the pace of change, anything we're doing in industry today is digital first. You're designing in digital. You're getting IoT data, so it's digital first. More and more, a lot of it is becoming spatial data. And what I mean by that is it's 3D models, it's LiDAR scans, it's point clouds. People can now pick up their phone and do a quick video and turn it into a Gaussian splat and blah, blah, blah. So everything is, spatial awareness is becoming far more important. I think we're expecting far more immersive experiences. And what I mean by that is immersive is not necessarily you have to be on a VR headset with a Tesla suit and on a moving, multi-directional treadmill.
But with Meta producing those Ray-Bans recently, just made an announcement. I mean, we're moving in that direction, aren't we?
So here's my point. Immersive is a spectrum. And what I mean by that is we've gone from two-dimensional images on paper to two-dimensional images on screens.
Yeah.
So now we have 3D models. Now we could be looking at that in a standard model or standard monitor, phone, whatever. But you can kind of zoom in and zoom out and whatever. So that's kind of immersive. And the two of us could be looking at the same model on two different screens, different parts of the country. But again, we're using 2D screens. You can have 3D monitors now. Some of them aren't bad, right? They're made for one person, but the perspective is quite good. And then you get into the whole AR, XR, whatever. You have the Ray-Bans. If someone said to me 18 months ago, the Ray-Bans would have been as big a hit as they have been, I just said, well, sure, it's only voice and a camera. There's no heads-up display. How is that immersive? But it's proven a big hit. What am I looking at? Talking to the AI, whatever. And now the new version that they just announced has screen. So pop up. So that it's an immersive experience. And then ideally, you might be wearing your Ray-Bans. I might be on a computer. Someone else is on a phone, and someone else is in a VR headset, and we're all looking at the same thing and think. So it's collaborative.
Yeah.
That's also a key feature.
That's key.
It's persistent. And what I mean by that is it's not that I come in and I join a session and I'm looking at the shop floor and whatever. If I log out, well, all that data is being stored in the images and. And if you log in, you get the new version. So it's persistent. And if I leave a sticky note on something saying, hey, can you look at that when I'm back? It's persistent. And the other thing that everybody is going to, it's not just a nice static image or a static model. How can I simulate on it? And what I mean by simulation is that when I'm designing something, well, if I simulate it now, can I check out the stress levels. If I have a factory automation and I'm producing X, Y, and Z, can I make it go 10% faster? And if I do, will anything break? Because some predictive maintenance thing will say, hey, if you spin this thing faster for the next 2 hours, it's going to hit a break point and fail and whatever. Yep. So simulation is key. Presence, we have an avatar, we're there, it's you, it's collaborative. And also the other thing not to forget about, NFTs and blockchain, they haven't gone away either. There's an economy. Yep. And what we're starting to see is more and more marketplaces where I have a 3D windmill 3D model. I'll sell it to you because you're going to use that to simulate an environment doing something around whatever, building a wind farm and. So to me, there's all those characteristics. Now, if you roll forward and go, well, where has technology gone in the last couple of years at a pace of knots? We have more and more compute technology, more silicon advancements. Yep. So we have better headsets, we have better tech in the Ray-Bans, we have better compute under the desk, we have better cloud, we have whatever. Chuck into that the whole thing with AI and what NVIDIA and Qualcomm and everyone else is doing, huge advancements. Everything's about open architectures, APIs, cloud. So in my day, you had these massive silos, and there was you had an enterprise service bus that you would spend 3 years trying to design.
Yeah, absolutely. Build, yeah, you did.
Trying to get things to talk to each other, and 9 times out of 10 they failed, because by the time you got it working, something else changed. Yeah. So now you have far more interconnectedness and APIs. Digital twins. Digital twin means many things to many people. My basic representation would be it's a digital representation of something. Now, you could go off and say a digital twin. An SAP system is a digital twin. It's a digital representation of your business. And then some people will kind of go, well, it has to be visual and 3D and in VR and whatever. And I kind of go, hang on a second now. No, it doesn't. And in most companies today, what will happen is that you'll say, do you have a digital twin? Actually, they have about 50 digital twins, because they have the 3D design, that's a digital twin. They have some real-time IoT systems, that's a digital twin. They'll have this, that, and the other. The feature is that they're all today in silos, and they don't necessarily talk to each other. Now, where we're headed with the open architectures, APIs, things like NVIDIA Omniverse, Bentley's iTwin, what Amazon have been doing with the IoT platforms, yada, 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 is many of those silos are starting to be broken down, because also you have unified namespace, you have OpenUSD, you have all these standards coming that are starting to stitch stuff together. And you get into the concept of we'll have all these different digital twins. There's a digital thread that kind of munges them together. And it's not that you take all the data, create a massive big data lake in the sky and create another digital twin. It's all real time, and you pull in what you want in Omniverse and. And then you kind of go forward and kind of go, well, we have all the immersive tech coming at us and the revolution in edge computing. If you look at the compute power you can now put on a shop floor in an industrial PC, people are putting NVIDIA graphics cards into them, or Jetson chips, so you can do inference of AI models out of the edge in cameras and whatever. So you kind of take all of the characteristics, the way technology is going, and the business imperatives that are at us right now. And as that pace goes forward, I still think industrial metaverse is the best term to kind of what's coming together. We're munging together the convergence of technologies. And the key thing I think that's changed in the last 12 months is that for any of this to be successful, you have to break down the silos.
Yeah.
And for years, we would be talking about, well, I'm going to build a VR app or an AR app, and I'm going to create a whatever. And the feature was you took a snapshot of data out of one silo, you spent 3 months creating an app, you came back to the customer, gave them the thing, said, this is great. The customer said, yeah, that's not bad, cool tech, but it's out of date. We've changed stuff, and it doesn't look like that anymore. So you need to break down the silos, take the data, kind of create the app on a Monday morning with the data from Friday night. And I think the biggest thing that's driving the breakdown of silos right now is AI, because everybody is chasing AI in my company. How do I make my AI more clever? I have to get all the data from all the silos and munge it all together. So that's breaking down the silos. So I just think there's a perfect storm, to use an old bad analogy, but there's so many things, convergence of technologies, new use cases, AI driving, breaking down silos, and the business imperatives today. Like, God, it's a tough time with uncertainty in terms of tariffs and geopolitics, and like who knows what's going to happen. But yet you need to remain competitive. It's digital first, and especially in manufacturing, the thing now is that, well, I have to be profitable. I have to know what's going on right now. And I have to be able to change my production lineup. The batch size of one is kind of the new buzzword. So how do I get that flexibility? And the other thing that's not changing is the workforce. People, we don't have enough of them. How do we train them? How do we keep them skilled? Automation, micro learning, immersive trainings. I think this is just inevitable. This is the only way we're going to keep going forward.
Yeah, I did an interview last week on dark factories.
All right.
And this is kind of like a complementary to it, which is about understanding more about the tech for it. Certainly what I'm seeing is that, as you say, it's not just about the metaverse; it's about lots of things. We've had the Internet of Things now for 20 years or something, haven't we?
At least, I grew up in the embedded world, and then it became the Internet of Things.
Yeah. I mean, RFID, we've had that, for 30 years. So it's kind of the and it is about bringing these things together. And I agree with you. It's about how can we, we'll get you'll read the paper and suddenly it will be what we've announced is that all life science manufacturing has to take place in the US. Or drugs, even generic drugs, have to be. If you want to sell in the US, they have to. It's like, what do we do now? Right. Well, we better get a factory going, and and how do we do that? And it's having the tech to allow us to, and the flexibility to meet that requirement, isn't it?
It is. I have the opportunity in what I do. I spend a lot of time traveling the world, meeting with the cool kids, seeing the latest and greatest. The art of the possible. What can you really do today with bringing all these technologies together? And if you look at what's going on in the world today with, whether it's the US, the UK, Ireland, Europe, pick a country. Everybody's on about, we need to shorten our supply chains. We need to get more self-sufficient. We need to bring manufacturing home. Now, I've been saying with 18 months, okay, not a bad idea. But this is not about bringing thousands of low-skilled jobs back to any country on the planet. This is all about automation, and then you point about dark factories. For folks that don't know, dark factories are where basically you have no lights. They're not built for humans.
Yeah,
you don't have any human working in there within reason. Now, I suppose where a lot of this technology and people get stuck, or where the challenge, right? This isn't easy. But where I kind of started out with the energy metaverse was I was seeing what people were doing with new builds. And what I mean by new builds, building a new battery factory, building a new electric car factory, building a new hydrogen plant, something new.
Yeah.
So you had no legacy. So you started with a digital design. You were able to simulate the hell out of it and, design it and fix it and whatever. You can write the programs that'll run the factory inside the simulation. If folks haven't seen what NVIDIA have done with physical AI, physical AI is all about the humanoid robot walking around the factory. Incredible stuff. The only reason you need a humanoid robot inside in a factory was the factory was designed in the first place for a human. If you were designing it today from scratch, like your colleague last week, if you don't need to design it from humans, just think about tables. We don't need tables. So the way you automate things with robots, with robotic arms, I had the opportunity to be up at EMO in Hanover last week. It's the machine builders big conference. Think milling machines, CNC machines, whatever, massive things. Like a robot will pick up a car and drop it in a tool and it'll whatever. What they're doing with additive manufacturing, 3D laser printing, metal. The Falcon 9 SpaceX rocket nozzles are 3D printed.
Yeah.
Incredible. Like no human touched any of that. It was all automated. So I suppose where I see we're headed is that everybody needs to be a bit more competitive. If you're starting from scratch, it's easier because you're starting from scratch. But the vast majority of our manufacturing infrastructure, our energy infrastructure exists already. So you have the brownfield. But even then, where you see people with LiDAR scanning and 3D twins and, munging the things together, that's the world we live in. And unfortunately, to be competitive, the biggest driver today is, well, if I'm a CXO as well, hey, how do I keep the lights on? And how do I stay profitable for the next 6-12 months? But how do I get ready for the future? And change is only going to be the only constant. So I have to be adaptable. My workforce is changing. I can't fix that. I need to deal with that. My customers are going, well, I need to change this and that and whatever. So I have to be able to react almost on the drop of a dime. So that's where simulation and digital force comes in. Now, it sounds easy for me to say this, but as I say, the art of the possible, and then you see in the real world what people are actually doing. And it depends. It's all based on the context. But even smaller companies, or you buy a new milling machine today, it runs itself 24/7.
Yeah.
So that's where we're headed. So then you need digital skills, not necessarily physical skills.
Yeah, and I guess that these things are changing all the time. So in terms of where are we going for the next 4 or 5 years, in terms of dark factories, just so you know, the prediction is we're not going to have them for probably another 10 years. And partly the reason for that is that we still need humans to fix computers and to fix robots. We need new robots to fix robots is the part when we can go really dark. Yeah.
True. It's a concept, and there are people talking about it and doing it. And again, it depends on what you're doing. And Amazon warehouse, where everything is moving around on robots, no, someone still has to walk up and pick up the robot that tipped over, right?
Yeah.
So you need the person has to see it. So now the other thing, and if you look at what people talk about Industry 5.0 is, okay, we're automating and AI and but we still need human in the loop. So where is the human-centric manufacturing? Where's the human-centric? Where's the human fit into all this? Now, I personally, I'm a human. I don't personally want that all of us, I'm not sure I believe in the whole abundance theory that we'll all be playing golf in 5 years' time with universal income and holding hands and singing Kumbaya. I don't need the human. I read a lot of history when I have spare time, ancient history, medieval history. Human nature hasn't changed in 5,000 years. I don't care what color, race, religion, country you're from. So humans will be humans. And we resist change and. So I think there'll always be human in the loop, even with the AI systems that are coming down the line. So yeah, the dark factory is kind of art of the possible. You could do it, but you still need someone to walk in and fix things from time to time. So, and as I say, it's context and whatever. But we talk about digital transformation. God, I don't know. I've heard digital transformation for what, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sick of the term. And it was the futurist at CES last year was talking about, that's kind of old school. That's 20th century. 21st century, it's about digital coexistence. And how do we exist with all the digital twins, all the digital thread, the platforms. And as I say, people will say, but we've tried, we had a VR thing 5 years ago and it was pretty poor. Sure, why would we do it again? That's kind of like the old cliche of like, God, things have changed a lot, boys and girls, in 5 years. You should see with Ray-Bans now what you can do. So I think one of the challenges that we see in the world I live in is the art of the possible. There's so many moving pieces. Like, God help anyone trying to keep up with what's going on with AI today, with who's doing what, and agentic agents and foundational models and blah, blah, blah. It is just so hard to keep up. And how do you join all the pieces together? So we, industry, have to get a lot better at making it simpler for things together. Now, that's not that everything's going to be drag and drop and we're going to be vibe coding the new factory of the future. But the pace of change in technology is only accelerating. And I think it's the only game in town. So whatever we call it in 5 years' time, it'll be more digital. It'll be digitalization on steroids. But then what skills do we need? How do we fit into all that? And what do you call it? Geopolitics and tariffs and whatever aside, like that they're the known unknowns right now. Yeah,
I think that yes, I remember going to the Google Glass launch, and they were pretty rubbish. Whereas
15 years ago.
Yeah. It was a long time. I mean, you couldn't get a very big computer on the glasses. But of course, now everything's got smaller. And you do need to have that kind of, I need to give it a go again, even though it was rubbish 15 years ago.
Well, like even 2 years ago, if you had a heads-up display with the waveguide, the red color, the reason a lot of them were green was that the green diode was quite small. A red diode was physically just big. So you had a big chunk of whatever on the side of your glasses. So it didn't look cool. Now, Meta seem to have done a pretty good job of making that a lot smaller. So it is those technological changes. I visited Infineon recently. What they're doing with silicon carbide for better power transistors, but that makes the thing smaller. So when that gets smaller, then all the surrounding peripheral things, so whether that's in a headset, in a computer, in a jet engine, everything's getting smaller, more powerful. And as I say, I think it's that convergence of technology. Now, at the same time, there has to be an ROI. Nobody's doing this for this because they can. Oh, let's build a dark factory to prove we can. You got to be profitable. It's got to work. But in terms of the industrial metaverse, and as I say, maybe we'll have a different word in the time. If I look back at today, we talk about the internet. Like, two of us were probably around when that was starting out. It was the World Wide Web. It was the internet of everything. It was certain companies had different words for it because they all had marketing terms and whatever. But we kind of figured out and think, whether it's industrial metaverse, industry 5.0, virtual factories, virtual something, whatever word we come up with, technology is not slowing down. Business imperatives aren't slowing down. This is where we're headed. So whatever we call it, it will be digital first, simulated, immersive, automated, AI stuck in all parts of it for every piece, and human in there somewhere collaborating with all this. So it's about this digital collaboration.
Kevin, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. It's a fascinating subject, something that we probably look back on in 5 years' time and laugh. Go, God, were we really in this like Blackberries? Were we really using just automated email and a telephone? Really, was that it? So Kevin, where can people find you?
Easiest way is Tim through our LinkedIn live here. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Kevin O'Donovan. I'm on all the other platforms as well, but that's probably the easiest way right now.
Okay, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on.